So in this video, we're going to be talking about my 10 top reasons as to why I invest in apartment blocks. I'm Tom Boland, and my property investing strategy is based around apartment blocks and the title split strategy. The 10 reasons why I invest in apartment blocks are: number one, so apartment blocks offer multiple streams of income from one property. So you may usually see it where property investors buy several houses, HMOs, or similar types of property like that to create multiple streams of income from their property investing business. Now, that's all well and good, but you have to do several transactions to buy several properties over several months or years in order to achieve that. Buying an apartment block is a single transaction with multiple units, multiple tenants, offering multiple streams of income from one property. Reason two, and it's sort of following on from reason one, and buying an apartment blocks is like buying a mini portfolio from one transaction. And like I said in reason one, you might be going around looking for properties in the same street, the same area, or all over the UK, looking for several purchases to really create that portfolio and grow your portfolio into multiple units. But with apartment blocks, it's a sole transaction and one property. So you can do less transactions and still grow your portfolio rapidly. Even one transaction a year of an apartment block with 10 units in it, that's more than a lot of other people manage to achieve within 2, 3, 4, 5 years, being a property investor. So just imagine that buying an apartment block and buying 10 units within a block really increases that portfolio from day one of buying that block. And then it gives you 10 individual units to help you grow your portfolio in the future, increase your cash flow, as well as that equity growth over time. Besides, imagine buying 10 properties over the period of a year, the amount of valuations, broker fees, legal transactions that you've got to go through, that's very, very time consuming. So imagine just doing that in a single transaction with an apartment block. You only have to do that once and you're set for the rest of the year. And reason number three, and now I really like this one because it's all about adding value to a property. Now, as property investors, we're taught about getting into a deal where the value needs to be added into the property to enable us to increase that value, then refinance against the increased value, and then recycle our cash, pull all the cash out, and then we can go again. So apartment blocks offer multiple strategies for value add options, one of which being a rent increase. So you can source apartment blocks with below market value rents. On the day of completion, instruct your letting agents to increase the rents to the correct market value. And already instantly, you've increased the value of that property just through a rent increase. But then you can also do a refurb on some of the units or all of the units. And if you buy right and do your calculations correctly and then do the refurb, then if you've done it correctly, that should increase the value overall on that property. Another one might be an apartment block might have, say, some land to the side. Can you split that land, get planning gains on it? That would be another value add opportunity. Or is there a parking space where you can lease out parking spaces to the tenants? There might be 10 apartments in the apartment block, and there might only be 5 parking spaces. So there's more demand than there is supply there. So you could add a value add through there by leasing parking spaces throughout certain tenancy agreements, or you could do an annual agreement where you say charge £100 for the year or £50 a month, whatever works for that property. There's also opportunities where you could build up on top of the levels. So say there's an apartment block with 2 levels, you might be able to add another level to the top. That's very popular, of course, in cities at the moment. And of course, the one that I really like is the title splitting on apartment blocks. And we'll go more into this later on down the line because there's a few more points where I mentioned about title splitting. But title splitting is a great way to add value to an apartment block. Reason number 4 that I like investing in apartment blocks is because of the tenant types. We have a lot of control over what kind of tenants we can put into the properties. Depending on the type of property and the area you invest in, now this is all down to your homework and your investment criteria, but what kind of tenants do you want in your properties? Do you want to rent your properties out to students? Do you want a social housing contract put in place? You can put a 5 or 10-year social housing contract in place, leave it to the social housing providers and walk away from the property and let them manage it, and you just get paid on a monthly basis. Do you want to have working professionals in there? Or the popular one at the minute is serviced accommodation, which is like short stay holiday lets. An apartment block seem to be working quite well for them. So you can have like a mini hotel, if you will, within that apartment block. So yeah, reason number 4, multiple tenant types. And that is why I like investing in apartment blocks. You're not restricted on who you put into that property. Reason number 5, buying in bulk. So similar to like the reason number 1, where you're creating multiple streams of income from one property. In this case, you are, again, buying in bulk. So you're getting more property for what you're buying. You're buying one single freehold property, but you're getting multiple units out of that property. So you're increasing your portfolio quicker within a shorter period of time. Reason number 6, single maintenance responsibility. Now, yeah, okay, single maintenance. Say you've got 10 units in your apartment block, you've still got 10 kitchens, 10 bathrooms, and 10 carpets and walls to maintain, right? So it's not always just a single maintenance responsibility, because you do still have multiple units within that property that you've got to maintain. But my point here is it's a single property, one single building. So things like the roof, that's one single roof to look after. If you buy 10 single properties, you've got 10 roofs to look after. But with an apartment block, you've only got one roof to look after. Reason number 7, and this one gives you flexibility in your exit strategy. With buying an apartment block on a freehold, you're buying one single property. But like we've already said, you can split the titles of all of the units or maybe some of the units. So let's say you've bought 10 units within a property. If you wanted to sell some of the units, you could split the titles on, say, we're selling 3 units in this instance. You could split the titles of 3 of the units, keep 7 units on the freehold title, and those 3 units that you've split and created individual leases for, you can now sell them individually. Of course, you can split the titles and refinance against the increased value, if there is an increased value through a title split, and retain all 10 units. But in this instance, what I'm talking about is the flexibility of your exit. You can sell some of the units to help raise extra capital and release that equity within those couple of units, retain the freehold and the majority of the units of the block, sell some of the units to release equity, and go on and buy the next property. Reason number 8, apartment blocks are a stable investment. There are a lot of rules and regulations coming into play, especially around investment strategies such as HMOs, houses of multiple occupancies, where you take a house and maybe rent the rooms room by room and have 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10 people living within that one property. There's a lot of regulations around strategies such as that. With apartment blocks, there's less regulations around it. Of course, if you're building apartment blocks, then you need to meet the up-to-date regulations that are imposed at that time, such as the minimum size requirements of certain units in certain areas. But with existing apartment blocks, there's very little restrictions around them. Also, because you're having multiple streams of income from this property, if a certain tenant moves out or you've got issues with one tenant not paying the rent, then there are going to be void periods. But because you've got multiple units paying rent, that helps cover any void periods or any issues or maintenance costs within the rest of the block. Also, over time, because you're increasing the rents, the value is always increasing of that property on a commercial basis. Apartment blocks are also always in high demand by all kinds of different types of tenants. So in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time, if you've bought an apartment block, it's still going to be cash flow and it's still going to be tenanted and it's still going to be stood there. With other properties, other regulations might come in, such as HMOs. Like I mentioned, the councils and the government are cracking down on things like that and restricting what you can do with those kind of strategies. So apartment blocks are going to offer you that stable investment over time. Number 9, cash flow. Apartment blocks give cash flow, and that is why we're investing. We're investing for cash flow. Of course, appreciation over time is great as well, which we're going to get because we're increasing rents year on year with apartment blocks, right? But cash flow is the number one reason why we are putting our initial cash into these properties and getting the cash flow back out of it month on month. Apartment blocks offer cash flow. However, when people buy single let properties and do the buy, refurb, refinance model to them, they're buying one property which is empty, or they're going to empty it so they can refurb it, spend 6 months refurbing it, then tenant it, then refinance it, and only then does it start to cash flow. Apartment blocks cash flow from day one because we are looking to buy apartment blocks that are already tenanted, or we can buy a vacant apartment block and put a social housing contract in place by the time we complete. And then on the day of completion, we've already got that cash flowing contract in place. It's the responsibility of the social housing provider, and they move their tenants in and take it off your hands. Reason number 10. And well done for staying to the end of this video to find out reason number 10, because this is obviously the biggest reason. I want you to be here to listen and hear about this one. Title splitting. Buying apartment blocks has the opportunity of title splitting and adding value through a title split. We are buying in bulk, buying apartment blocks. So therefore, because we are buying in bulk, we assume we are getting a discount. Not always the case, but if we buy right and we source the right property, we can get discounts on buying apartment blocks. Let's say we buy an apartment block for £700,000, 10 unit apartment block of 1 bedroom units. When split, they would be each worth £100,000. So the property is actually worth £1 million, but because we're buying it in bulk, we're paying £700,000 with it. We're getting discount for buying it in bulk. We're buying it as one transaction. The title split and the work for the title split hasn't been done yet. We are going to do that. So we demand a discount. Once we buy the property, we can split the titles, therefore adding that extra £300,000 in value through the title split, creating individual leases for each unit, and then refinance against that £1 million value, or sell and make £300,000 profit. Additionally, though, not only can we do that, but with my broker, we've created a unique bespoke lending product where the lender lends against the split value. Now, this is unheard of, right? Because lenders usually lend against the purchase price. But in this instance, instead of lending against the £700,000 lower purchase price, if we can prove that a title split increases the value enough to be worth £1 million in this example, the lenders will lend against the £1 million split value on day one. Therefore, if they lend 70% towards the £1 million value, and we've agreed the purchase price of £700,000, then we get 100% lending. Reason number 10, you don't need a deposit when buying apartment blocks if you do this strategy correctly. Now, I'm not one of these guys who's advertising no money down. Yeah, you still need money, right? You've got acquisition costs, legals, brokers, valuations, surveys, all these different costs. Stamp duty, that's a big one, right? When buying apartment blocks, it's going to cost you a lot. But you can buy apartment blocks without a deposit. Great, right? Anyway, so I hope you got a lot of value out of that. That's 10 reasons why I invest in apartment blocks. We're going to be doing more videos like these on apartment blocks because this is my strategy. Title splitting is my strategy. Adding value through a title split and creating those leases, as well as that bespoke lending product that we have available. So if you've got any comments or questions on that, please get in touch below. I'd love to hear from you, see what you think about this video, because it's a little bit different to what we've previously had on the channel, but there's definitely going to be more videos like this, giving you value, teaching you about apartment blocks, title splits, adding value, cash flow properties from day one. Let's go.